In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to add comments to your code. And I'm also going to talk about and show some examples on why it's important to have comments, and you'll hear it referred to as properly documenting your code. So you can see our last application or last app that we ran right here, and you can see that you know what it does. However, if this were to get more complicated and say you were going to step away from this program for a few months or even a few years, it would really help if you knew what you were thinking when you built this. I can't tell you how many times I've built a program, gone back even a few weeks later, and if I didn't properly document it, sometimes I had to rewrite it from scratch because I wasn't sure why I had set certain things the way that I did. If I would have properly documented it, it would have fixed it from the beginning. So to add comments, and what comments are essentially, they're just notes to yourself or future programmers that are going to be working on the files, and they're comments that will not get processed and not get run, but they're there to help you know what you're doing when you're programming. So to add comments in JavaScript, you can just create a line and then hit the / twice and say anything you want to say. So here you can say I'm setting the variables, create a new line here, and say I'm creating if statement to judge multiple input values. And these aren't that helpful. You wouldn't really need to do this on a regular basis because this is pretty basic stuff, but I'll go into a second how this can help on more complicated things. The other thing you can do that helps out sometimes is you can put the comments on the same line that you're wanting to talk about. So say this alert was a little bit more complicated and you wanted to add a comment, just give a space and then do your same comment / and you say just the details about the function. And so you can add that right to the right, and you'll see this is considered a best practice in a number of programming languages because it very specifically points to what this function does. There are a lot of times too where you want to set more than one comment line at a time, and so we're going to put up at the top, one thing that you'll do is put your name and possibly the date, and sometimes when you get into more advanced programs you can actually put your full algorithm that you're using to build the program right up at the top of the file. It'll make it a really good reference for anybody else who wants to work on the program in the future. And you could just type in comments like this and keep going, but that's really not the most efficient way to do it. JavaScript has a way where you can set up a start of a comment and then an end, and it makes it a lot easier. So you do one /, then you do the star or asterisk, and then at the end of the comment you do the star and a /. And so here we can put name, algorithm, and details about the algorithm, date created, we can do, and then this is just an example of something that I usually will do. I'll usually put the date that I created the file and then the last date I modified it, so I can keep track from a historical basis on that. So this is a way you can put you can document your programs and then give yourself a reference in the future, both using one lines and multiple lines. And as you'll see when we click run, condition 2 passed, it didn't even look at anything in the comments when it ran the program. It skipped over all of that. That's purely for you to use as a developer. I'm going to show you an example of how this can be a lot more helpful, because this is a basic program. It may not make a lot of sense why you'd want to document it, but I'm going to show you a few things. This is some code, much more complicated code, taken from the Mozilla network, and this is for talking about how you can write to a file. And if you were to look at this, even myself who's been developing these type of applications for years, if I were to look at this, it would take me a while to figure out exactly what is going on here, because it's definitely not self-explanatory. These names are long. You're not going to know everything they're talking about. So if this came without documentation, without comments, it would take longer just to figure out what it was doing, much less on knowing how to use it. So I'm going to show you that compared with something that's actually documented properly. And so here you can see it talks about the file being a specific type. The data is in the string format. Talks about optional parameters that you can pass in. Then it comes down, it says what the last argument or the callback is. That's optional. Shows how to handle errors, and then it shows what the result is at the end. The data has been written to the file. So you can see, compare these two again. Seeing that compared to this, it's a much better program. It's going to be easier for future developers to use, and so it's just a good example on how important it is to document code.